Good day, students, and welcome to another fresh edition of our online class. My name is S.Adebayo, your government teacher. This week, we'll be looking at colonialism. That is, we look at colonial administration. We also look at the principle and structure of British colonial administration. We'll look at the central administration and native administration, and also the impact of colonial administration in Nigeria and West Africa as a whole. Firstly, when I'm talking about colonialism, what does colonialism mean? Colonialism can be defined as an imposition of a more developed culture over a less developed one, backed up by expansionist and economic adventurism. That is, when we're talking about colonialism, is a kind of process by which a country that is developed is now taking charge over a what? Over a less developed country. And you know, these things happen during the in 1880, when the European had gone ahead of the rest of the world in science and technology. So the Europe of 19th century became the workshop of the world, with growing desires for Britain for raw materials for their industries. Like Britain, we have Britain, Belgium, France, Germany, Italy, etc. That is, they were involved in this race. So let's now look at the central administration now. That is, the central administration was headed by the government, by the governor. That is, the central administration of these people, that is the British, it was headed by the what? By the governor. He was appointed by the Secretary of State for the colonies, who had the power to remove or redeploy him. That is, it was the secretary that appointed them. That is, they have the power to tell him to go home or to continue. The governor was responsible for administrator of the whole country and was accountable for the imperial government in London through the Secretary of State. The governor is the president of both legislative and executive council. Then he also makes and executes policies and appoints and depose chiefs and appoints officials government. So he also assisted in legislation, can veto legislation and review judgment by the judicial and exercise prerogative of mercy. Let's look at Legislative Council now. Legislative Council was another institution of central administration. This council was made up of the governor, the officials, and of unofficial members. The elective principle introduced by the Clifford Constitution, which was in 1922, reorganized the council to provide for 4 elected African members. The Legislative Council had more representative with the Richard's Constitution. The role of the Legislative Council was to advise. The governor is framing legislation for the colony, but the governor was not bound to accept its advice. Let's look at Crown Colony now. A Crown Colony was regarded as British territory, and it was directly controlled by the Britain. That is, this Crown Colony now, it was something that it was the Britain. Don't forget, it was the British that colonized Nigeria. It was being controlled by them. The law made in Britain were applied to these colonies. Crown Colony were established through military conquest, diplomatic mission, and treats with the local people. For instance, the colony of Lagos was annexed in 1861 by John Beecroft of the British Royal Navy. The citizens of the Crown Colony were regarded as British subjects. The land and minerals located in the Crown Colonies belonged to the British government. Don't forget, these people, they came to Africa because they know that Africa is a less developed country. So they now want to make use of our natural resources so as to be governed over us. That's why these people try to colonize us. Also, we have features of colonial administration in the Crown Colonies in the British West Africa. That is, the administration of the Crown Colonies were conducted by a number of institutions, such as, number one, you have the Secretary of State for the colony. That is, the Secretary of the State colony was also called the Colonial Secretary. He was a cabinet minister. He stood between the colonial government and British government. That is, he was in between the country that is being colonized and the British government. Also, we also have the governor. Don't forget that I think I have told you about this governor. The administration of the British Crown Colonies was direct and headed by the governor, who was the chief executive implemented British colonial policies. He was appointed from London through the Secretary of State for the colony, who resides in London. The third one is Legislative Council. The Legislative Council made laws for the colonies. It had official members who were appointed by governor, majority of whom who are British citizens. The unofficial member were some African chiefs, European merchants who were nominated into the council. That is, they also make use of the legislative councils. And these legislative councils, they are the official who are what? Who are appointed by the governor. And they also have some people from the what? From the African countries that they colonized. Also, the fourth one is the executive council. The executive council carry out the function of the executive arm of government. And what's the executive arm of government? That is, they implement law. The executive councils for each colony consisted of 2 officials who are mainly white. That is, the social consisted of departmental heads, the secretary of the colonial government, and director of media services. The council was responsible for the governor and the advising of government policies. That is, and these are the functions of what? Of the executives. They try to implement law. We also have protectorate. A protectorate was a territory under the control and protection of the British government. Citizens of protectorates were classified as what? As protected citizens, and were subject to the rule of their traditional rulers, who were answerable to the British authorities through the governor of the colony, who administered the protectorate by making the laws for them. Let's look at the native administration now. The colonial administration instituted a system of native administration in the protectorate provinces and districts through the indirect rule system. This is a system of administration which uses the traditional political institution of the people to govern the people in accordance with their traditions, norms, and practices, which did not conflict with colonial laws and under the guidance of colonial laws. This native administration was just like indirect rule. That is, they try to rule these people that they colonize. They enforce laws on them, and they make use of of what they have. And it's a system of which uses traditional political. That is, they make use of traditional rulers to govern them. Like, for instance, in Nigeria, for instance, it was these people that now they make some people like in Western now. The governor of Western was Akitola and Awolowo. The governor of Eastern part was what's the name of this man from Eastern part? And the Western part was the northern part is Tafawa Balewa. Yes, the eastern part was Nnamdi Azikiwe. They make use of these people because they know that they are civilized a little to govern over the citizens. Then also we also have British system of colonial administration. Britain, like other countries, other European nations, sent its colonial to its 4 West African colonies after the 1890 Brussels Conference for effective occupation of territories. By 1900, Britain had established political influence in 4 colonies of, we have then Nigeria, we have the Gold Coast, which is now called Ghana, we have Sierra Leone and the Gambia. That's it. The Britain, they now came to West Africa, which I have just mentioned. We have Nigeria. Nigeria was there. Gold Coast, it was formerly called Gold Coast, but now it is now called Ghana. Sierra Leone and the Gambia. In West Africa, British crown colonies include Lagos, Accra, Freetown, and Basseterre colonies. These colonies were regarded as extensions of Great Britain, so that they were administered directly by the white British. The laws made in Britain were applied to these colonies. The Governor General of the British territory were the chief administrator of the colonies. At the crown colonies, the traditional rulers were not recognized. The direct administration was possible because of the presence of the large British officials in the colonies. Also, the colonies generated adequate funds for their administration. That is what they are trying to tell us here, is that when they wanted to colonize countries like that I just mentioned, Sierra Leone, Ghana, Nigeria, and the Gambia, so they now make some places like Lagos. Now, Lagos was the capital of Nigeria then. Accra was the capital of Ghana. Freetown was the capital of Sierra Leone. So they now make all those places as where they will stay, so that when they want to control the colonies, when they want to control the citizens, they make use of their traditional rulers. Let's look at the indirect rule system now. Indirect system is a system of administration in which the British colonial government adopted as its colony policy in dealing with the people by using the traditional rulers, traditional political institutions as intermediaries, while the British officials mainly advised where necessary to enforce colonial regulation. That is, I think I have explained this. Indirect rule is a situation whereby the British, they were trying to make use of the traditional rulers over the citizens, and the only thing they do is just that they just give advice to these traditional rulers, and they try to enforce some colonial regulations on them, which the citizens try to obey. Also, let's look at the features of indirect rule now. Number one, it is made use of the existing traditional system of administration. Number two, it recognizes the status of the traditional rulers. Number three, traditional rulers served as pivot of indirect rule. Number four, traditional laws and customs were used in the administration. And number five is the system was supervised by the British officials. That is, it was the British officials that supervised the system. Though they make use of traditional rulers, but they are the ones supervising it. Because since they can interact, the traditional rulers can interact with them, so they will now have to have a particular person that will interpret for them, for the British, so as to understand what is happening between the traditional rulers and the citizens, because since they are less developed at that particular moment. And the last one is British officials did not exert their influence directly on the people, but through their local chiefs. I think I've explained this. Anything they want to do, they will tell their local chief. It is their local chief that will now instruct the colonies, the citizens to do or to obey what they are told to do. That's also number 7. This system was meant to assist the development of the traditional political institution for effective administration. Number 8, the system did not disrupt the existing traditional system of administration and political order. And number 9, it was not an expensive system of it was not expensive. That's it. They didn't spend much money on it. And number 10 is the native authority system was used. And number 11, the taxes were collected. They collected tax. They call it Ishakole in Yoruba. So I think that's where we're going to. This is where we're going to end today's this week class, online class. So join me next week for another fresh edition of another topic. So till that next week, stay blessed and stay safe.